lot of radio noise here. Whoa! Getting bombarded outside the Allegheny courthouse. What's with all this radio interference? I did do a little speed test right before I began, and we're right on the edge of crappy signal over here, so it's going to be quite a test of the failover system. But I'm in Pittsburgh, PA, and we just had the first hearing in Goodman versus the Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office. And I gotta say, court is fun when you're not the defendant. Now, is this Joe Manchin? You gotta be pretty rich to buy a Maserati SUV, not because it's expensive, but I guarantee it's gonna break and cost a lot to fix. Now, I don't know if people have spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh. It's a wreck. I don't know, I mean, here we are right outside the courthouse. Look at this. This is an alley, so, whatever, but I don't know, you think about all this money they're throwing in Ukraine. Why can't we spend a few billion to make Pittsburgh great again? I haven't spent that much time here. That's going to be changing, apparently. But my impression is it's fairly economically depressed. And, at one point, Pittsburgh was like a steel, like the capital, big, thriving city, right? And you can still see remnants of that. Andrew Carnegie, I think, was steel, right? There's bridges all over the place. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like Pittsburgh, but I haven't spent that much time here. But let's talk about the hearing. So this was a status conference. Is that a Raptor? It is, and an R at that. Gotta get the supercharged. I mean, who doesn't want an 800 horsepower pickup truck? Let's be real, people. The hearing was a status conference, so let me take people back. This is the Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office, not to be confused with the Beaver County ESU SWAT team, who I also sued. Graphics delete. Why would you do that? The Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office, you recall, is where Ken Silva had retrieved the autopsy, allegedly, of Thomas Crooks. And that was fantastic work by Ken. If people aren't following Ken, he is JD Cashless, right? Is there an underscore there? He's on X. I don't want to check the other phone because anything I do to disrupt the failover network now is likely to screw it up. It was right on the edge when I was testing it over there by the courthouse. But Ken's done great reporting. That's how he and I first connected, was that he obtained that autopsy, and he did tremendously good work too with the PA, the Coroner's Act. There was a lot of facts and details that came out of that. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so there's a ton of stuff that I don't know about laws, and that's an important thing to start this episode with. I know it's sounding maybe crazy for people, I say it all the time, but I'm getting involved in increasingly more sophisticated legal matters, but it is important for people to remember that I am not a lawyer. Nothing I ever say is legal advice. I could be wrong about all of this. I definitely lose a lot in court, but what's interesting is all of that has been in U.S. District Court. So people who aren't in the United States or maybe aren't that familiar with courts, the way it works is we got state courts. Right now, I was in the Pennsylvania Court of Common Pleas for Allegheny County, and that's a state court. The way the right to know lawsuits work is that's just sort of like a mediation action. You're not really in court. Yes, it's a lawsuit, but it's presided over by a lawyer who mediates, and that court doesn't have any enforcement authority. So if you tell, I don't know, maybe Detective Patrick Young of the Beaver County ESU, hey, Goodman is right. There's something screwy with this photograph. You got to give him the original HEIC photo from Detective Gianvito's phone, even when the Office of Open Records tells the cops that. The cops don't care. They don't do anything. Ralph's Discount City, not making it. Why is that closed? Here's Pittsburgh. I've never done this, just walk around Pittsburgh. Nice enough, right? I guess like New York, there's parts you could go to that are terrible and maybe parts that are okay. Here's the Warren Center. Looks interesting. People who know Pittsburgh will know about this, right? So anyway, I prevailed in the right to know action against the Beaver County ESU, and they were ordered to give me stuff that they never gave. So that needs a writ of mandamus, but I've been busy with a lot of stuff. This is the Allegheny County Medical Examiner. I also prevailed in the right to know action with them. So I'm basically saying, hey, I asked for a lot of stuff, but the most important thing I'm asking for is information pertaining to the process and method that was used to determine that the dead guy on the roof at American Glass Research was Thomas Crooks. Because it seems like they just guessed. You know, when Ken first got the autopsy and this all came to my attention, he pointed out to us that here's the milkshake factory. Seems good. Chocolate cake and a shake. Is that lunch? Ken pointed out that there was all this business with the Butler County coroner, whose name is William Young III. It's weird. The detective, and this came up in the hearing, the detective who's in charge of the Beaver County ESU, that's nice, it's Patrick Young. The detective who took the photograph of the dead guy, that is Richard Gianvito. Gianvito is married to a woman whose whose maiden name, Nee Young. Weird, right? So the coroner, the detective, and the wife of the other detective, all Young. It is a common last name. That came up in court as well. I have no evidence that these people are related. This guy's at least paying attention. A little heavier than I'd like to see the cop, but you know, he's got the vest on. Paying attention and looking. So that's good. I'm not going to hassle Pittsburgh PD. I don't know what their deal is, and they haven't assaulted me yet, so I have no beef with the Pittsburgh PD. Yeah, so Ken raised all this issue of, well, how the hell did they figure out that this was Thomas Crooks? Because according to the Washington Post, the FBI went over to Matthew Crooks' house, the father, and was like, hey man, your son is dead, and we know it's him because we got the serial number from his rifle, and it's your rifle, by the way. So the question is, how the hell does any of that make sense? Why would they presume because somebody has a rifle that's owned by somebody else that it's his son? Why would they do that? I mean, that reeks of a preconceived notion that this is the guy and we just need some stupid story, and in the rush of the day that happened, that was the stupidest story they could come up with, or I don't know. It just doesn't seem to make sense, because why wouldn't they say, oh, have you recently had a robbery? Did anybody steal your gun? I mean, to me, if you were going to do a crime, wouldn't that be the smartest thing to do? Steal a gun or get a gun from somebody who the serial number isn't registered to your father? I don't know, maybe the kid's not thinking, but seemed crazy. But there's so many problems. They said they used DNA, but where did they get the DNA for Thomas Crooks? Is he a criminal in a database from robbing banks or something? Like, don't they need your DNA? They didn't say that the FBI collected his DNA from the father and then checked it. I guess they'll say that now to try to cover their tracks. I mean, Allegheny County medical examiner can watch YouTube and Twitter and whatever, X, and maybe make stuff up. But really the most intriguing aspect of this hearing, there was a lot of intriguing aspects of it. Like I said, it's fun in court when you're not the defendant. And I'm only like 3 weeks into my new life of not being a lawfare defendant, a counter lawfare defendant in frivolous litigation. For a long time, I had the sense that George's brother was working for Judge Caproni. Really nothing else could explain what I was seeing. In my mind, he would email her in her chambers on Christmas Eve when the case was long over. That really struck me as odd. That seems like the type of thing a judge would get pissed off about. District court judges, in my experience, and I now have kind of a lot, been in front of a lot of district court judges, definitely motion practice in front of a lot of district court judges. I overturned the chief judge in the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C. I'd like somebody to go find any other lawyer who's done that. Has that happened before? How often do they grant these 59E motions? I ask lawyers and they're unable to tell me. The Pittsburgh people want to get in on the action as well. I don't know, what's the vibe here in Pittsburgh? I'm getting hassled a lot less. I don't have bicycles all over the sidewalk. Maybe Pittsburgh's not that bad, right? You having fun? There you go. So Pittsburgh's all right. Here's a guy on a bicycle on the street. Perfect. I don't think I'm going to move to Pittsburgh. But I'm definitely coming back because there's a trial scheduled now. So this was a status conference, and the judge is like, well, have the parties conferred? And I was like, I didn't know we were intended to do that. We had some email about when to schedule this trial. But so the judge was nice, which was a really pleasant departure. I got there early, and I was sitting there, and it was like the judge and the court reporter, and then some guy sitting there with the computer. I guess that's the guy who says, all rise, and I don't know what he's doing, but seems like an easy job. And the judge was joking, and he was friendly, like a regular person that you would have any kind of meeting with, so that's vastly different. Judge Colt, who is a district court judge in New York, had a pleasant and calm demeanor in court, but his rulings in my case were as fugazi as any other. So it's interesting to get this experience in different state courts and different judges and different types of judges. And I mean, look, this is like anything, right? This judge knew the attorney. It's like, who the hell is this guy? Oh my God, I love this restaurant. Fogo de Chão. Do people like churrascaria? If you've been to Brazil, it's a lot more expensive here than if you get it in Brazil, but I wonder how much that is now. I haven't been in there in maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Who knows? Restaurants are just so expensive now, it's crazy. This is nice PA buildings, right? Pittsburgh. There could be some stuff going on here that, like, why don't they revitalize Pittsburgh? There's nothing about this that's inherently bad. It's a city, but like most cities in America, they've allowed it to fall into disrepair, crime, drugs, and they want to send billions to Ukraine and get gangbangers back from El Salvador. It's the stupidest thing in the world. A lot of radio interference around here in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, it was just a status conference, so did it go well? Nothing really happened. The judge always wants to like get to the fastest resolution they can do, not have a million hearings, and finish the case efficiently, and that's not bad. That's what they should want to do. And he basically said, well, I mean, is the county willing to give Jason what he wants? It's a lot of radio. Maybe it's this crap that seems to cause it in New York, right? What is that? See, I look at it and it stops doing it. It's like Schrodinger's radio interference. Interesting. All right. But anyway, he was sort of like, hey, are you guys willing to give Jason what he wants? Really, the one important thing that I've asked the medical examiner for is evidence related to how the hell they know this guy is Thomas Crooks, and they're refusing to give that. They say because it's just policy and whatever, and the lawyer, she was polite. I mean, it's also nice because, see, every time I used to go into court as a defendant, I mean, I was so pissed off at Robert David Steele, and we never, no, we did. We had that show cause hearing in the Emmys trial where Caproni violated my rights and the law and all that sort of stuff. That disgusting criminal is going to be brought to justice. I guess we're in an all right part of town. You wouldn't park your turbo cabrio 911 right there if it was in danger of something bad happening. Wow, look at that. That's a nice looking beehive parking lot. Reminds me of New Zealand Parliament. Actually, I think they do call New Zealand Parliament the Beehive. There's interesting stuff here in Pittsburgh. Here, look, a street mural. They love alleys. Why? It seems like a good place to get jumped. Yeah, it's just nothing but alleys. Steel City. Gotta get the keg. Don't want to interfere with that. Yeah, so they don't want to tell me how they figured out it was Thomas Crooks. But what was interesting is, you know, you do all this motion practice, you're writing things and sending it in, you really have no idea if they're looking at it at all. What's nice about this is I get to sit there and talk to the judge. And so I could tell, they were like, who is this guy? They ask, are you representing yourself? Yes. Not an attorney, right? And they're like, okay, this is gonna be stupid. And then it starts, and I start saying sensible things, and I think the judge was quite intrigued by what I said, because I told him about all the evidence that the Beaver County ESU refused to give with the photo from Gian Vito's phone. Doesn't that look like a fire escape added after? Like some city code came in and they're like, hey, we need to get some steel on that concrete building, put a fire escape. And how come only people in that row of apartments get to escape? What if you live on this side of the building? You know what? It looks like a lot of stuff is pretty abandoned in Pittsburgh. These ghost town USA walking around a city that I don't know, it's always a little bit, I could just wander into some bad neighborhood. But it's all right, we'll try it out. Now here, look at this phone company building. That's some old looking stuff, isn't it? Do you know Larry Klayman was involved in the breakup of, what was it? Bell? You know, they make all the different phone companies. I don't know. Does this look like an active building? I mean, Housing Stabilization Center. Somehow I think no. So the judge, when I told him about how I had determined that, you know, I got the unredacted report from the Beaver County ESU when I did a right to know request, and the pages that had been blacked out in the Chuck Grassley report, I had. And I told him about how I called the ATF agent, how Ron Johnson said that the ATF agent was on the roof. The judge was like really interested. And then after I got done saying that, he kind of turned to the woman who was the attorney for the medical examiner and was like, well, you know, what about all that? And like when she said, oh, this is a standard, you know, death case and this and that, I was like, I don't really think this is standard. How often are people shooting at candidates and now the current president? And by the way, this is not just me trying to be a jerk. This is like an ongoing danger. Why are we having all this static? This is an ongoing danger, and they tried to kill Trump again. And the judge seemed, maybe this judge likes Trump, who knows? But he seemed intrigued by this. And so we're having a trial in June. I haven't told Ken this yet, but I told him I wanted to call him as a witness. I hope he wants to do that. I didn't even know that was going to come up. So the judge just asked me, will you have any witnesses? And I was like, Hey, are you down for that news? Sorry? News? Yeah. Have a nice day, miss. I can't understand what that lady is talking about. I don't know that I want to get in too much of a conversation over there. There is a lot of stuff out of business. I mean, it's like New York in that way, right? All this stuff is out of business. But you could get some ice cream and beer. But all that other stuff, forget it. So, I mean, I guess people see what I mean. It's a little bit, I guess it's like a less populated New York, right? Steel City tobacco. Do they even do steel here anymore? I think that's what destroyed the economy, is all this steel manufacturing went to where? Japan, probably China now. I better not go too far away. I gotta figure out, I'll just go back to the courthouse. Look, there's the bridge. Here, let's go look at that. Can people see that? This is, I guess, I mean, to me, the coolest aspect of Pittsburgh is all these steel bridges. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers, everything is steel. They love it. We gotta do something with that radio interference. So, you know, nothing was decided today. And, you know, when the judge introduced this idea of, like, why don't you, like, work it out, after the hearing ended, I said to the lawyer, I said, well, why don't we do that? Why don't we have a meeting and I'll just come talk to them. I'm not trying to do anything to the medical examiner's office. I just want to know how they figured this out. And by the way, I said to her, I was like, look, whatever the rules are, I said this in the court. I said, Your Honor, may I ask a question at the risk of naive? And he said, sure. And I said, isn't this something of tremendous public interest, irrespective of the policy? Shouldn't they want to just tell us this? Is it the guy? Because if it's not, the implications of that are just insane. That the cops are, you know, changing evidence and deleting stuff and photoshopping evidence. That's the thing I think that the judge was intrigued by, that I told him I did a digital forensic analysis of the photo and came to this conclusion. And if I'm a lunatic and this is a conspiracy theory, the cops should want to present the original evidence and prove that and put this to bed. But instead, oh boy, speaking of going to bed, I mean, it's just like New York, right? Oh boy, here we got some trouble. But the point is, you know, the judge seemed intrigued by the evidence that I had presented and discussed. And, you know, seemed shocked that I was saying, I think a lot of people don't know that there's even a possibility that it was not Thomas Crooks on the roof. It's super annoying with the static. I don't really, hey, that looks nice, Nikki's Thai Kitchen. Maybe I should have Thai food. Well, let's just go look at this bridge. There's another one. So you see, this is what I mean. Pittsburgh is all about bridges. Steel bridges. Oh boy, look at it. This is great. We're gonna have a good view of bridges. And by the way, just because the judge, well, no, that's wrong. I was gonna say, just because the judge is intrigued by what I'm talking about doesn't mean that he's gonna decide in my favor, but actually, it really does seem like it will have an impact because the judge gets to decide. And if he decides, oh look, here's a strip club. You know you're in a good neighborhood. If he says, yeah, Goodman's right, this is important information for the public. Is something happening with a wire? that I could fix that would make that stop? Yeah, that might have just done it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, everybody. I think the wire was being stretched, and as I was walking, it was doing that. Okay, we should be good now. So many people have turned this video off from that static. Sorry, everybody. See, I learned something every... Who knows what's causing it? We'll check out this bridge. And then, so anyway, I've got to come back to Pittsburgh. Here, Batman is doing something here. Oh no, that's not an official part of the sign. Somebody just stuck that on there. Diesel. But I'm going to be coming back. And want to thank all the Crowdsource the Truth sponsors that have made the show possible, made these different legal actions possible. Of course, I'm not using an attorney, so it doesn't cost, millions of dollars, but I had to travel here, hotel, filing things in the court, you get subpoenas, everything costs money. And, I'm not so worried about a $10 fee for a subpoena. I don't like it when they want to charge you, $600 to file an appeal. That seems pretty, honestly, abusive. Not the way the court should work, in my opinion. Let's just get a little view on the bridge. And then I think I'm going to wrap it up. This static is killing me. Yeah, we're in the strip district. So I guess people are going to want to strip. You know what it is? This has happened before when I've been on bridges. I think the bridge itself acts like maybe some kind of antenna. And look, there's big radio towers over there. Shouldn't be interfering, though. Okay, maybe we're out of it now. This is the Allegheny River. We got a lot of bridges. This is just killing me with the static. Stadium over there. So yeah, not a whole bunch to report. There was the hearing. Terrible. There's the bridge. There are other bridges. Oh my God! What the heck? What on earth is causing this? Wow. Sorry, everyone. Oh, look, here's some self-driving vehicle. Robots. That's the next thing. Robotic vehicles, AI, all over the place. I'm loving AI. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's evil, it's gonna take over or whatever. I hope that doesn't happen, but for right now, it's super duper helping me a lot. Now, it does seem when I squeeze this wire, I don't know, does my body somehow take the interference away? I guess it doesn't matter, because now I just release it and it's... Anyway. So that's the deal. Pittsburgh excursion. Goodman versus Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office. Have people been looking at X? If you're not following on X, you're missing some of the best reporting I've ever done. Probably the best reporting I've ever done. The most important thing I've ever been involved in, figuring out this Lawfare loan scam and what appears to be a RICO in Congress. But not just Congress. Judges, executive branch, it's the whole entire government. It's smashed the separation of powers. And that makes sense because actually Caproni did things like that in the case, violating the doctrine of separation of powers. They love to do that. And look at how Boasberg takes my motions and keeps them off the docket. Just think about that again for a second, because Signalgate is heating up, and stupid Adam Schiff put out a thing yesterday or the day before. trying to cure the defects in Signalgate that my amicus brief pointed out. Maybe Schiff didn't see that. Maybe Boasberg didn't say, hey, we got a problem and we need somebody in this Lawfare network to help us fix it. But Schiff is now calling for the National Archives to get involved in trying to kick Pete Hegseth out. And I have to say something. I initially was like, why the hell are you hiring this news guy? But I've been impressed with Pete Hegseth. I guess I didn't know all the details about his time in Afghanistan or Iraq, I forget, I think Afghanistan. But he's impressive in this role, and I like what he's been doing. And look, I don't get involved in these things because it's like, oh, Pete Hegseth. It's like, look, you can't do this crap to people. Can't do it to me, can't do it to Pete Hegseth, can't do it to the president. And if I am able to stop it in some way, that's the purpose of what I'm doing. And my amicus brief, which the judge hasn't ruled on yet, it said the plaintiff, according to me, and I'm not an attorney, the plaintiff doesn't have standing because it's violating the nonprofit laws in the IRS code by which it is organized, 501c3, section 170b1a6. See, all this time with Charles Ortel has taught me a lot of stuff, and I owe a lot to a lot of people. Charles, Larry, everybody, a lot of people have shared knowledge and information and helped contribute to this, but so we got some kind of deal going on there. In addition to me saying that because they're violating the law by which they're organized, and then therefore, according to Rule 17, they can't even sue not a legally valid plaintiff, the judge obviously saw that, because otherwise it would have been entered on the docket and then he would have said, no, get this out of here, and he didn't do that. Now the weird thing is, he could have done that easily. If Boasberg allowed my amicus filing, my motion seeking leave to file as an amicus, if he had allowed that onto the docket and then said, no, we're denying leave to any pro se amicus, he could, this looks like part of the bridge, doesn't it? He could have, and in my opinion, he should have. He must have some more sophisticated, this guy knows a lot more about the law than I do, and a lot more about lawfare than I do. But in a straight game of pool, what the guy should have done is allowed the brief on the docket and then said, not entering this. Or, okay, fine, you can enter. The fact that he wouldn't allow it on the docket, that's a very unusual circumstance, and in fact, it's illegal. I was able to overturn it with a 59E motion. So obviously Boasberg saw it, and there was some reason that he didn't want anybody else to see it. Right? Why else would he do that? And he probably figured, oh, this guy Goodman is a dunce. He's a pro se. I'll just bounce him out of here, and then I'll put an order on the docket. Ooh, we're learning a lot about this way this guy Boasberg works. See, he put the order as a minute order on the docket saying, leave to file denied, Jason Goodman. And that struck me as a very stupid thing for him to do, because if you're going to play outside of the rules, why introduce my name to the record at all? That seems to me like a critical error, because when he did that, whether this is right or wrong, it caused me to believe that now that my name was on the docket, I could like move in the court there with a lot more credibility, because they can no longer be like, who the hell are you? It's like, well, there's my name on the docket. I'm like now like an entity in this case. So that's what gave me the window to do the 59E motion. And the basis of the 59E motion was that preventing the thing from getting on the docket violates my constitutional rights, the First Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment, and the judge doesn't even have jurisdiction over anything that I say or do unless I commit a crime in Washington, D.C. and get arrested and indicted. or something I voluntarily enter into the court gets entered on the docket. He can't stand outside the court and tell me, hey, you can't file stuff here, which is essentially what he did. And what I'm saying here is definitely correct because he ruled in my favor on the 59E. If this weren't right, he would have said no, 59E denied, motion for leave, motion seeking leave to file denied. So he hasn't granted the motion seeking leave. He hasn't said, okay, you can file as an amicus. It's just a proposed amicus brief. Now the thing that's strange to me, and lawyers watching might understand this better than I can, but irrespective of what the judge does and what the plaintiff does, because if I'm correct, those guys, they just don't like the motion and they want it to go away, and probably like Caproni, they want me in jail or underground or something like that. But I don't understand, well, there's our first guy on a bicycle, but not really the same. What I don't understand is why haven't the defense attorneys seized on this and said, holy cow, this guy Goodman, he's just handed us the solution to winning this case. We could just file a motion to dismiss on the basis that this plaintiff doesn't have standing, and here's the clutch. Gets us back to shifty Mr. Schiff. The Federal Records Act is not a criminal statute, and it's not a civil tort. There's no private right to action. If somebody violates a contract, breach of contract there's a civil right of action. You sue them. But you can't sue people in the government for failing to adhere to this administrative statute, the Federal Records Act. The only agency that can bring legal action pursuant to that act is the National Archives. And I mentioned that in my amicus brief. And so yesterday or the day before, shifty Adam Schiff calls on the National Archives to get involved. And guess what? I bet they're gonna. Do we think that Adam Schiff saw my melon head graphics and all this, making fun of him and everything? Because I don't think he's doing it to get back at me. I think I've got this Signalgate case on the back foot. I put in a brief that should have ended it. Now this is a historic landmark. Let's look at it. The Dukensk Club. Longfellow, Alden, and Harlow, Jansen, and Cocken. Those are the architects. Why did they wait after 1902? Maybe they restored it or something. So very weird, but it's clear to me that Boasberg is trying to get Pete Hegseth fired. And somebody pointed out something interesting. You know, all the people on that Signal chat, it's the entire Trump cabinet. So they're like, okay, we're getting more static over here. They're like, okay, you guys can get approved, but then right away we're going to move to try to get you, like, fired, and who knows what the hell they're going to try to do. Doesn't that look nice? But they clearly want to get, you know, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, CIA director. They just want chaos. They want to... We've got an entire contingent of people that are dedicated to the most counterproductive activity. Destroy the economy, steal all the money, make everything cost a ton of dough. You know, stealing millions and hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars, it is not a victimless crime. I wasn't joking when I made that graphic where I say, oh, Janet Yellen says, don't worry, no taxpayer money was used, and then we see the $12, $13 eggs. Okay, I do think John Cullen presented compelling evidence that killing all the birds and bird flu, and that made the price go up, but I think that's only part of it. Everything has gone up, not just eggs. And I think it's because the dollar is being devalued for a variety of reasons, and stealing billions of them at a time. 15.6 billion to bail out or bail in or whatever they did with that First Republic. Weissman knew Banks are not giving you $1 million loan 5 days before they collapse. Wouldn't they have meetings like, hey, we have this problem. Oh, okay, let's try and fix it. It's not working. Yeah, it's getting worse and worse. We're gonna go out of business. Oh, okay. It's not like you're humming along and everything is fine and then suddenly 5 days later, oh, we have no money. Weissman knew. And I think they all know. They're all stealing tons of dough. So probably Boasberg is. I don't have any evidence that he is, but I haven't looked into him at all yet. I did start looking into Norm. Exactly the guy I wanted to talk to. But it doesn't matter. He's on a call. Now, where is the court? I think I'm heading back to it. Yeah. I don't know, that guy has the umbrella up like he wanted to strike me. I notice a lot of people wearing masks in Pittsburgh. Why is that? In the courthouse, there were like old ladies and stuff with the mask on, and they even still had a sign in the courthouse that said, if you don't have a vax, wear a mask, but they didn't seem to be enforcing that, and it just looked like an old sign. That whole place was just old. They had giant books of records and stuff. This is delicious. Picanha. If you haven't been to a Brazilian churrascaria and you don't mind spending like $100 for dinner, it's so good, Fogo de Chao. You gotta also be hungry as hell. What is this? Doesn't really say. So I don't know, we'll see what is going to happen with all of that reporting about the Lawfare loan scam. It's important for people to understand, that is just one component of Lawfare. And I've said this on various shows. I think I said this on Sal Greco's show. I don't think that even a stupid person would commit all these felonies, send documents through the mail and over wires interstate. These guys are lawyers. Even dumb lawyers know what crimes are. Why would you commit all these really substantial crimes with huge penalties to save $150 or $200 a month on a mortgage? It doesn't make sense. Yeah, I was saying this to Sal, and he didn't like this. Sal, the thing that's great about Sal is that he is just so stickler to evidence. So sometimes I will say something like that and he doesn't see the evidence there and he just says no. But that's a good thing, because then when Sal gets really enthusiastic, like when I found some of this evidence, he had one of the strongest reactions of anybody. And I think that is because when you're a police officer, I experienced this a little bit, not being a police officer, but going into the police station, having an interview with the detectives about the harassment that I was subjected to over the past 8 years. This was years ago. And then sit there and talk to them for like an hour. Then they went out and said they need to go talk to the legal department to figure out how to charge this. And then they came back with this lawyer person, and I just basically got this talking to about, you know, you see like when Joel, what's that idiot's name with the blue outfit? Matola, he's like, oh, show me the video, because he thinks it's going to stop my live stream. Then I show him the video. He's like, oh, well, I can't do it because of this reason. That's what this legal person was doing. Every reason why you can't charge this guy, we can't do this. And so I'm saying, I think Sal and other police officers become very conditioned to knowing, like some people, they're like, oh, you can't film me in public, I'm going to sue you. It's like, okay, good luck, you can't do that. So Sal kind of rolls his eyes when he thinks you have something that maybe you're excited about, but this is going to go nowhere. And so then conversely, when he has this really strong reaction to the evidence, because he knows this is self-authenticating, court-ready evidence. Federal rules of evidence, this is, you just don't even need to get anybody under oath and swear that this is the real thing. It's taken from the government thing that it was illegally filed on. It's like, there is the crime. You filed this. Why did you do that? So I don't know. Like I said, I did notice Eagle Ed Martin following me, and James Woods retweeted the Jamie Raskin laundromat. That was a good image. I'm thinking about taking some of these most recent AI images. And I've tried this before with posters and stuff. It didn't really work, but the only way that I can think of that it makes any sense in terms of the amount of work that it would be and all that is to make a very limited run of prints. I would print them on canvas and sign each one and maybe make 10 and number it. But I'd have to sell them for a lot of money. It wouldn't be, not because I'm so great and it needs a lot of money, because it's a lot of work outside of my regular thing, and I need money to support these type of legal activism efforts. So I was thinking about making 10 and selling them for $500 each. Is that crazy? Would anybody, just gauging if people would want that. I guess I would include a free 1-year subscription with the picture, and it would be signed, and once the 10 were made, there would be no more made of that print and that series and everything. So that was one idea, but James Woods retweeted that, and when I made that image, I was super excited about it. I knew it was great. It just came out really, really very good and funny. So anyway, I think I'm pretty much done explaining my courthouse experience. I will be back here in the coming months. Now, what is this? The police station? Somehow those round turret things make me think it's the police station, but I don't know. That looks more like Chicago Water Tower. What is this building? Hey, my friend, do you know what that building is?
That's the courthouse.
That's the courthouse?
Yes.
I was just in there. That was the courthouse.
No, that's the city hall.
But I just had a court hearing in there.
In there?
Yeah.
That's the courthouse right there. That's the city
All right.
hall.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So see, that's what I mean. Like maybe this is municipal court and that's state court. Who the hell knows? Court and law, and I'm not a lawyer. It's all very confusing.
Okay.
Why does the courthouse need this whole tower? That seems like a purpose-built. There's some kind of building that's doing something, no? I don't know. Whoa! I'm not touching that wire anymore, so I think it was something over there in that part of town with radio interference. But anyway, that's the story. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a wonderful day. I'll be on tonight with Charles Ortel at 8 p.m. And he and I have been having extensive conversations offline about, you know, the Lawfare loan scam and the bigger implications. So what I was going to get out there is I was telling Sal, and this is what he didn't like. I was telling Sal that I don't believe that Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff or any lawyer, you take somebody first year in law school, I don't think that they're going to do all these, you know, in writing elements of fraud, you know, just blatantly. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these guys know they're lawyers and they're not going to get in trouble. But it just seems to me, even if they know that, it seems to be like a gang initiation, where, hey, Adam Schiff, we're going to want to use you to do stupid things like blunt the effectiveness of Jason's amicus brief by telling Boasberg to get the National Archives involved. And then it'll look like, oh, a senator called for that. Jason didn't point out that their case is going to collapse because of that. So now they're curing that defect. Boasberg hasn't ruled on the amicus brief. He hasn't said you can enter or you cannot enter. It hasn't been denied. It hasn't been granted. It's sitting there in limbo. Now, how will he cure the defect of the oh, yeah, bringing in the National Archives cures both, because now you no longer have this 501c3 plaintiff. That is so, you can't do that. I point out the defects, and so where the hell are Pete Hegseth's lawyers? Why aren't they saying, yeah, Goodman's right. You can't bring in the National Archives. This case should have been rejected sua sponte the moment it hit the docket. Obviously, Boasberg has no problem doing that to me, even outside the rules and against the Constitution. So what's the story? Oh, look, isn't this Jeffrey Epstein's favorite design? Pittsburgh. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Don't forget to become a sponsor, please. Odyssey does not yet have their restored payment system in, so people can't, if you're not already on there, you can't join now. You can subscribe for free, but you can't become a member. And I do recommend that people subscribe on Odyssey. I love it. And it's got the largest collection of crowdsource the truth content anywhere on the internet. You can still sponsor on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, on subscribestar.com, and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And you can also become a subscriber on X at JG_CSTT. You're going to get the newly released sponsor exclusive content as it comes out, now that X allows for that. And also you can follow on X for free. Lots of great reporting happening on there, and James Woods retweeting it. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day. More exciting stories from court. Not an attorney, don't forget. None of this was legal advice. Not even for Adam